Hello everyone, this is Eric Wonderston, and today I'm going to give you a tour of our family communication tool in Albemarle County Public Schools called Remind. The easiest way to get there is to log in through ClassLink, and you should have an icon for Remind already there. You can also go to remind.com and sign in with your Google account. You can also install the app once you've got your account set up. Once you get into Remind, just a quick tour, you have your account settings up here. You have the ability to send messages and see your classes and conversations. And if you select one of your classes, you have a variety of options as well. The first time getting into Remind, I recommend going up to your name and going to account settings and make sure everything is set up before you send out your first message. So begin by adjusting your display name, your personal information, and just going through here, your preferred language. And then probably the most important one are the notification settings. And Remind is really nice because you can get notifications via email, you can get them on your computer, you can get them as an actual text message, or you can get them on an app. By default, we've loaded family and guardians' phone numbers. So no matter which method you use to message them, they'll get a text message initially. And once they set up their account, either on the app or on the website, they can decide if they'd rather just get them as emails, desktop notifications, text messages, or using the app. We do recommend that families and guardians will use the app because then they can see a list of their classes and message the teachers proactively. Those that are just using text messages, they're just going to receive a text once the teacher messages them. All right, so anyways, go through here, adjust your settings, what notifications you want for reactions, if you want to allow replies to your messages or not. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And then setting up office hours is nice. So if you pick your school hours, you won't receive notifications outside of your office hour time. You could still log into the app, you can still log into the website and see the messages that are coming and going throughout the evening, but this will prevent you from receiving calls and messages outside of work hours. So I highly recommend you set up office hours. There's a few other options here. You can archive groups if you no longer need them. You can see a list of your blocked users, and you can take your message history from a certain date to an end date for certain classes, and you can export them. All right, so these are all of your account settings. Next, when you go into your class, you can look at your class settings. So if you want to attach files, you can look at all of the people that are in your class. And you will see a combination of students, family guardians, and other teachers. And if you want to look at just a specific group, you can click this filter and see who those people are. At this time, we're not messaging students, so students don't have any contact information in here. But they are listed because that's who the family and guardians are associated with. If you'd like to make phone calls, you can add your number, and Remind will use a generic number to call both you and the family guardian member that you're trying to reach. So you don't actually use your personal numbers with each other. Remind acts as like a middle phone number. And the different settings for your class, we really don't want you to change the name because we want this to be consistent, but you can change the avatar. So if you found something that was more fitting for your class, you can do that. There's a couple more settings down here. Now, if you teach a collaborative class or you have a co-teacher, in your class settings, only class owners can send messages. So you may have a teacher listed in your class or a staff member, but they can't send messages until you make them a class owner. So if you go in here, you can add a class owner, and let's say Mark was already here as a teacher from PowerSchool. I can go here, and when I add him, now Mark can send messages to my students, family members and guardians. Right? So these are the people that can send messages with me. All right. Let's send our first message. So I find the easiest way is to just go to new message And let's say I want to send out an announcement to all of the family guardians in my class. So I can search for the class, or I can find it here. And if I check this box, what's going to happen is it's actually going to send the message to all of the teachers, students, and family guardians. We don't have student information here, so that won't do anything, but it will send it to all the teachers and family guardians at the same time. You may not want that. So if you only want to send it to family guardians, just select the drop down and go to the parents option. And then go here to continue. You can see up here who the message is going to go to. And then you have different options for your messages. Right? We'll get to that in a second. So let's go back. And if I just want to message one family member, I can search their name, or I can scroll down. And depending on how many people are connected to your account, this might be hard to find who you're looking for. But if you find, I know that that's the parent of one of my students, you can check the box of whoever you want. And what's going to happen this way is two people are in this message, but Remind is actually sending individual messages out to each person. So if Justin Sample replies, I'm the one that's receiving the reply, not P. Potts. Or if P. Potts replies, that's just a one-on-one conversation we're having. And that's the same with your group messages, or your like if you're sending it to an entire class of parent guardians, this is creating 4 individual one-on-one conversations, so people won't see each other. Now, if I do want people to reply and respond and see each other's messages, let's say I want to find one of my students. So I go to my class, go to the list of people, and I want to sort by my students. And let's say I want to reach out to Joseph Sample's family members and guardians. So if I go over here, Justin and Jill Sample, I'm going to write those down, Justin and Jill Sample, and I want to create a group conversation where the 3 of us can all message each other so that everybody stays in the loop. So Justin and Jill. Now, if you notice that a student of yours doesn't have any family members connected, reach out to your school's PowerSchool or database manager, and they can reach out to the family and make sure their settings are correct in PowerSchool, because all of this information is synced from the information we have in PowerSchool. All right, so Justin and Jill Sample, I go back to my messages, and I search for the family members' names or the guardians' names. If you search for the student's name, just the student will come up, not the parent or guardian family members associated. All right, so if I just did this, each of the parents would get one-on-one separate messages. But to keep them grouped together, you have to find where it says recent group or new group conversations and create a new group conversation. And then you can pick the people that you'd like to include. So Joseph Sample. So it's the extra step if you want them to be in a group conversation. Right? And I will remove them. I don't want the individual. So that's a group conversation, and I can continue. Now when I message Jill and Joseph, we can all 3 message each other. Right? Now this is going to apply to any message you want to send. These are the message options. So you can add additional content like files, photos, videos, voice clips, and we do have Google accounts, so you could do a Google Classroom or Google Drive. But the problem is these are only going to work if the people up here all have the app installed on their phone or they have email set up. So if they just have a phone number, they will not receive these. There's 2 things you can do here. You could reach out to everybody and say, hey, please install the app. Please sign up with your email account. That way you can receive these attachments. Or consider if it's something that's really important, you wouldn't want to include it this way because not everybody will be receiving that file. Next thing you can do is if you have a message you like to send out to a lot of people, like a grade check-in, for example, you can type out your full message. And then if you're like, hey, I'm going to reuse this a lot, you can save it as a template. And then it's easy to pull up each time. You can give it a name, you can set it up. And the next time you come here, you're like, oh, I want to send a grade check-in message. So you can use the existing template you've already created and pull it in. The other thing you'll notice is translate. When you check that, it'll let you know the language of the recipients. If you have another language, you can click and it'll let you edit what's written in that language, like Spanish, etc. Since it's in blue, it's best practice that you just check blue for most of your or all of your messages. That way, whatever home language a family or guardian has, the message will be translated for them. And then say you send it and it translates to Spanish. When they reply in Spanish, you actually receive it back in English. You can schedule the one-on-one messages. So you can't schedule a group conversation, but you can schedule the other messages where you just check people off. And this is recommended if you don't want to send a message out in the evening, you can schedule it for the next day. If you have a very long message, you can look at a preview of it to see how it's going to look as a text message. And what it does is it gives you like the first 600 characters, and then it just has a link that says, if you want to read the rest of this, click here. And then you would just send it, message sent. And when you go back to your class, you can find those group conversations and you can see what you've sent. You can also go over here to all conversations and see every message and every conversation you're having. And that's basically how Remind works. If you're not creating a message for the first time, you're welcome to just go to all conversations and just keep your conversation going. So I've already been talking with this family member or guardian. I can keep talking with them here, just like you would in a typical messenger app. And also just kind of click around. You can see what other settings you have. You could call them if you have your phone number connected. You can also, if you want to just reach out to one individual family member, you can find their name in the list. And when you select them, you now have a list of options over here to send an individual message, to send a phone call. You can see who they're associated with, and you can look at some of this. If you have any questions, reach out to your LTI, and they can give you additional support with using Remind. I hope this helps. Thanks and have a great day.